You're watching all the build-up and reaction. Hearts, Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup semi-final.
There we go. Welcome back to the show, and it was a very kind of weird Scottish Cup semi-final this afternoon. A game of two halves and all that kind of crazy stuff. Final score was 1 each after 90 minutes, and after extra time, Hearts 1, Aberdeen 2. So at least we'll know one of the teams in the Scottish Cup final on the 24th of May. So Reagan has joined us this afternoon. Get your comments coming in. Reagan, what game you take from that game? Because it was nothing special. Semi-finals are kind of like nothing special to write home about. But I mean, I quite enjoyed the first half.
I thought Aberdeen started off the game very poor. Hearts settled down probably the faster of the two of them, and then Aberdeen, funnily enough, get a really good goal. Great ball in by Clarkston. It's very hard to defend that, and then Papa Gay is there to nod home, and it takes a little deflection off Craig Gordon. Aberdeen go 1-0 up, and then it actually Aberdeen tend to slow it down a little bit. And I was thinking, surely that's where Aberdeen put the foot to the pedal and try and go for more goals. And then Hearts, they try and get themselves back in the game. They create a few openings, but then Graham Shanley lets go of Shankland, and it's a great finish to get them back level, Michael.
I don't know about you, but like obviously if you're an Aberdeen fan, you don't really care when you get the goals. But I mean, I felt as though and we hear this cliche in football sometimes against the run of play, and that was where the Aberdeen goal was.
I think it was because in terms of the first one as well, because I feel Hearts started the game well, kind of first 10-15 minutes to kind of impose themselves in the game. And then for a Aberdeen point of view, it was a good time to get that goal because as the commentary team was saying, it was sort of like Hearts started the better. They had to make the most of that territory and that pressure. But unfortunately, from a Hearts point of view, they weren't able to do that. But I think all the praise today, Michael, should go to Aberdeen. They played well, and to be honest with you, Michael, I thought John Beaton did a very good game too. I felt like the sending off, it was definitely a sending off. The first one, and I don't know what Devlin's doing. I don't know. He just seems to get involved in these stuff that he doesn't need to get involved in. Devlin, he always seems to have that kind of fire in his belly. Yeah, fair play to him. He obviously enjoys it, Michael, right? But I think sometimes he can become too fired up.
Yeah, because I don't know if you because it was like that the whole game as well. But also before he gets sent off, I don't know. It was mouthing off to the Aberdeen players and as well. So I mean, yeah, Aberdeen. I mean, if you say any Aberdeen fans, they would say, yeah, Lawrence, we got the victory as well. But I mean, you must give Carts credit going down to 10 men for most of the game. And I mean, I kind of said to you during the game, you would swear Aberdeen was getting 10 men.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Hearts dealt with the sending off pretty well. And like people were saying on the commentary there, I mean, Hearts were just trying to get to penalties, but then when Shankland goes down with 10 minutes into extra time, you're kind of feeling the worst for them because he would have potentially been a penalty taker for them. But I think in terms of Hearts, I think it's time now to question the manager and possibly question whether he's got a future at the club. You know, because I don't see where they will go from here. The okay, people can say they stayed in the game pretty well, but if you're a Hearts manager and you're losing out in a semi final again, and you've not made it into the top six, I think the questions need to be fired to Neil Chrisley's future. To be honest with you, I
But
I, I don't think he'll be there, but by next season he might be. I said that about David Martindale a few times, but I just feel like Neil Chrisley's time as Hearts manager potentially could be up for
and
me.
guess what? David Martindale might have a chance of coming back up as well. But like we said before the game that you asked me the question. I think it was about Shankly being a big time player, and
Yeah.
obviously he's not been the same player as he was last season. But obviously he got the goal today. But I mean, apart from that, Reagan, he wasn't in the game. He went kind of missing, and I think that's been. I think you could say that about a few of the Hearts players. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think a few of them are post missing. I liked a few of them performances, but a lot of them didn't step up to the game. I get it, right. Well, they were down to 10 men for a long portions of the game, but I still feel like they could have offered a little bit more.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Phil Craig would have to come to Aberdeen, and we'll come back to
Michael,
Aberdeen. Yeah,
Michael, I don't know if you want me to break this news here, but Falkirk have just went a goal up through Calvin Miller after 10 minutes. They're beating Raith Rovers by 1-0.
and you would say that the party might be underway at the Falkirk Stadium.
Yeah, it potentially could be because there'll be 6 points in front with a few games to go. Just to let people know that the rest of the championship games are still 0-0, but Falkirk are 1-0 up after 18 minutes.
There you go. Falkirk 1-0 up in the Fives derby. I would have liked to see that game on the telly last night as well, but obviously because of the atmosphere as well. But I mean, we'll speak about Aberdeen in a minute. I mean, you mentioned about David Gray being the manager of the year. We might have to add another name to that list, Jimmy Turling, because he's had a kind of up and down season, and I mean, fair play to him for getting that heavy defeat against Celtic in the League Cup semi-final early in the season, and this time he's took the team one step further and getting them to a major cup final.
He's done really well. I mean, to be honest with you, Michael, so we can't really argue with what he's doing. I mean, he's been able to get Aberdeen into the European spots in the league. He's also been able to get them into a Scottish Cup final. So you've got to say, for a first season, that's really good.
I mean, when you obviously if you're a Hearts fan, it doesn't matter. But our job is on the show to look back at the game. But as we go back to the kind of like Aberdeen goal, kind of thick it off by Gay scored the goal, brilliant cross from the corner kick. But you would say that Hearts were up for the game at the beginning of the 90 minutes, and they started well. And then, as I say, Gay scored from a brilliant cross from the corner kick, and it was a totally different game. And then after the goal, I don't know about you, Reagan, but after the goal, I felt it was all Hearts kind of fell out the game for a few minutes, and then who else but the man Shankling scored it to make it one each.
Yeah, it was a great finish. Graham Shinnie kind of lost his bearings in the game, but yeah, it was a great finish by Shankland, and it was great to see him back scoring. But yeah, in terms of Hearts, they'll be disappointed, but they would just be disappointed that they probably couldn't hang on for the next 5 or 6 minutes to penalty kicks. But all the credit must go to Aberdeen, Michael.
I know they say about the Aberdeen goal. Obviously, we're going to give it to Gay, but they say in the commentary, Craig Gordon, and I know it bounced off him to go in the back of the net. But I mean, it was. I don't know how you saw the goal, Reagan, but I kind of thought as if he didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, the first goal, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first goal, he didn't really know much about it. It's a great ball in by Clarkston, and he kind of tried to avert it, but there was nothing he really could do.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then obviously it was one each. And you're thinking, well, yeah, game on for the second half. But I mean, I I don't know about you, but I didn't have anything to write home about in the second half. Obviously, you know, we say it every time, Reagan, on the show when a team scores a goal in the second half, they always take momentum. But obviously, when Hearts went down to 10 men, when Swingman get sent off, you're thinking, well, okay, Aberdeen's got to take advantage of that in the second half, and they didn't really, because I mean, if you just turned on the game for the second half, yet you would swear Aberdeen had 10 men. But as I say, full credit to Hearts, even though Hearts fans wouldn't want me to say that now.
Yeah, I mean, full credit to them because they dug in really well, and they battled, they fought, they tried their best, but yeah, it just wasn't the performance for them. It'll be interesting to see if any Hearts fans have got any thoughts on Chris Lee, because are they pleased by the battling performance, or are they thinking Chris Lee's time is up? Because for me, I feel like as an outsider, for Hearts to lose this game, I know there is extenuating circumstances in terms of going down to 10 men, but still, and then obviously not finishing in the top six. And I wouldn't say Neil Chrisley's managerial record is something to write home about. To be honest with you, Michael.
No, and I don't think we go back to this, Reagan, like we were talking about early on about the about how Hearts appointed him as well through the I can't remember the owner's name,
David Bloom.
Yeah, David Bloom's you know, like so-called magic figures as well. But as I said to you before the game, Reagan, you know, you know, football isn't plague paper. It's a bit like saying, "Oh, yeah, he looks like a good footballer on YouTube, but he scores a lot of goals." But when you see him, he's a very, very poor player.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on what you're saying there. I think that okay, Neil Chrisley might fit the analytics criteria for Hearts, but in reality, I don't think that it was really a popular appointment by the majority of the Hearts faithful, and I think that's going to eventually cost him his job.
And again, it's turned into a bad week, made worse by not making the final today, and obviously not making the top six last week. But as you know, Reagan, football is all about money now, and Hearts is miscounting that money as well.
Yeah, and obviously they missed out in European football as well, because if they'd have won the Scottish trophy, they would have had a possibility of getting into Europe. So I think if you're doing a report card on Neil Chrisley this season, you would say it's definitely below par. It's not a good report card, and it's not a kind of, he would have been hoping to kind of re, 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 revitalize his time as a manager, but he's not really done that. He's had the opposite effect, to be honest with you.
And one of the things that we always speak about on the show last night and today before the game, about we were talking about how inconsistent the both teams were. But when Swine Finger gets it off from Hearts, and obviously Cammy definite in the second half. We always forget to speak about in semi-finals or finals teams discipline a wee bit. I mean, going back to that singing off, and it was a singing off. I mean, people can comment in and say it wasn't a singing off, but for me, it was a red card all day. But it didn't need to do that, Regan.
Yeah, I don't think he did, but yeah, I felt Niskanen was a player all day again. He showed his desire, he showed his hunger, and he showed his quality, and it was a great run forward, and it was a correct call by John Beaton to award the red card.
I hate to single one man out Shankling as well because obviously be interested to get a Hearts perspective on the game because obviously Hearts fans watch Hearts more than me, you, or anybody else in the show. But I just feel Shankling's head's either maybe turned or maybe he's not on Kleski anymore because obviously he scored that goal for Hearts today. He had one shot in the second half, Reagan, and I think that was about it.
Yeah, he didn't really impact the game apart from his goal, but like I said earlier, he's still got his personal pride and he's still got his ambition to potentially get a better move than Hearts, and not being disrespectful to any supporters that are watching. But I think in terms of what he's done for Hearts, he's done very well over the years. He potentially carried them to third place in the table last year because if it was for Shelton's goal, Hearts would have been nowhere near it. But yeah, I think he's been a good servant to the club. Um, it's just unfortunate for him that he's not going to end his time at Hearts with a trophy. Because for me, Michael, I think he'll be another departure out of Glasgow Airport or the Edinburgh Airport this summer. I don't think he'll be uh, staying at Hearts or staying in Scotland. To be honest with you, I think he'll try and move either down to England or maybe abroad again because I think potentially he could go to Rangers if because it might be a good free transfer for them. But I don't see apart from Rangers, I don't see them being any interest from up here because I don't think um, if if Shetland is going to move from Hearts, I don't think he would move to anywhere else in Scotland apart from his boyhood team in Rangers.
The total opposite from Aberdeen. Obviously, it was a level par performance from Aberdeen, but I mean, I think Aberdeen fans and Jimmy Kilding would take it. But as much as Hearts had a disappointing week, it's been the opposite from Aberdeen making the top six. Okay, it might have felt like a defeat against Rangers last week. They picked up a well-deserved point and then to get into the Scottish Cup final.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Michael, I've said this before. Um, I think it's been a good season for Aberdeen, and like I was looking at the fixtures before we come on. Aberdeen play against David Gray's side next Saturday at Pittodrie. If they win that, they go in third place, and then you're looking at Aberdeen being in third place, being in the Scottish Cup final. You've got to say that's a very successful first season for any manager coming into Scottish football, and I've got to say it's been fantastic to see Jimmy Tilleen because I. No disrespect to Stephen Robinson or Derek McInnes, I just think it's been great to see a fresh approach, a fresh idea, and someone new in Scottish football. I don't know about you, Michael.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like when you say about a fresh support approach, I always refer people back to Postecoglou because you remember a certain journalist on a certain radio station that was making fun of his name, like how do you pronounce his name? And then at the end of the season, I think he was eating. In fact, I think he's ate too many humble pies in the past as well. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see, in comparison with Postecoglou, with Jimmy Tilling, okay, maybe people can argue about the budgets and all that, But it just goes to show you, Reagan, that if clubs can look outside the box, because how many times has clubs appointed a manager from either Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, Italy, Spain, but they don't think about like Japan and Sweden and all that. So fair play to kind of like Aberdeen for thinking outside their box and appointing a manager.
Aye, because it would have been so easy for Aberdeen to go, right. Stephen Robinson's got St Mirren in top 6 for 2 years running. Let's go and appoint him. But they didn't. They looked about. They done their due diligence very well, and they've got that man, and it's proven to be spot on. And it was interesting. I was watching on the TV there, and a big smile from Dave Cormack. He'll be glad that he'll be glad that he got the appointment spot on, because I remember a few years ago Dave was having a little bit of back and forth with people on the radio. He was talking to Michael Stewart and things like that. So I think in terms of what Aberdeen have done this season in the recruitment, I think it's been very good. You look at a lot of the players. You look at the goal scorer as well. You look at the players they've got on the bench. I don't know about you, Michael, but I thought when Paul Valera came on, he made a big impact. I felt like they've got that Jensen at the back. He was solid. Dorrington was solid. I felt Aberdeen were really great this afternoon, and fair play to them. And we'll see on May 24th if they can go on and win their 8th Scottish trophy, because it's like I said before, it's been a long time since Aberdeen have won a trophy, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of tactics he does against Celtic, because this match might actually suit Aberdeen in terms of being able to sit in and counter attack Celtic. So it may actually suit Aberdeen if Celtic get to the final. Also, in terms of if St Johnstone get there, then there's no bigger opportunity for Aberdeen to win a trophy. So I think it's a very exciting time now if you're an Aberdeen fan, Michael. Very exciting.
I think as well that when we look back to the obviously that was the highlights of the second half. Shanklin's shot, Gay shot, and Clarkson's shot, and Pound raises chance as well. But I mean, if you're looking to extra time, I mean, you know my feelings on extra time at the moment, Reagan. I think we should do away with extra time and go back to the. Remember they had that in the World Cup, the golden goal. I think that would be more exciting, because I mean, extra time. Fair enough, Aberdeen won the game, and Aberdeen had a shot and dabber in the first half of extra time. Good save from Craig Gordon, but like that was it in the first half.
Yeah, Michael, and just to keep people up to date with what's going on in Scotland, Morton and Airdrie, there's been a goal there, and that is for Morton have scored after 30 minutes, and the scorer of the goal is Murdoch. Murdoch has scored for Morton. Yep, so it's 1-0 Morton against Airdrie.
1-0 more, and that game's at Cap. No, it's not. That game's at Airdrie.
Yeah, that game's at Airdrie. So the scores right now is Partick Thistle 0, Dunfermline 0, Falkirk 1, Raith Rovers 0, and Queen's Park are playing Hamilton, and it's 0-0.
There you go. That's a lucky score. Reagan is on the pulse of that one, but also he's watching the game today. Get your comments coming in, and we will get your comments coming in. Don't forget, and we'll be back tomorrow as well for the second semi-final between St Johnstone. There you go. I've said that again. St Johnstone and Celtic. we'll be live from the build up begins at 2 o'clock, and then after the game, we will be back at 5. Or maybe not, because going back to today's game, we had extra time and nearly penalties. Reagan, we were only about 2 minutes away from penalty kicks in that game.
Yeah, we were close, but it was a great save by Craig Gordon. But then the big striker pops up with the goal. It was a great, and yeah, I felt Aberdeen, especially Hearts being down to 9 men, they had to take advantage of that, because that would have gave Hearts a big psychological advantage if Hearts had gone to penalties, because they would have felt like they were virtually down to 10 men for the whole of the game and stayed out. So I think it's a big win for Aberdeen, a big win for the supporters, and also it's a big win for the manager as well, because he knows the kind of pressure he would have been under.
And also, you've got to give the big Jimmy credit, as I say, because he and Dava was a sub, and obviously before he scored that goal, he had your chance in extra time, and as you say, brilliant save from Craig Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, Craig Gordon, he's rolling back the years at the rightful age of 62. No, he's only 42. But I think he'll still be playing when he's 62. I mean, he's still he's still in great physical nick at the moment, and he pulled off a great save. But yeah, the Aberdeen player was just there to tap it on. I know John Beaton and Greg Aiken checked for potential offside, but yeah, I was just glad to see the goal going in, because I think sometimes we should make the advantage for the attacking team as well, because if the offside is that tight, then it's very hard to disallow it.
You mentioned about John Beaton as well. Obviously, he gives you big calls in the game. I thought he got all the calls right as well, but also as well that it's good that we're doing a show and we're not really talking about VAR.
Yeah, I mean, I thought John Beaton and his assistants done the game pretty well. Be interesting to see what Graham's take is on the sending off. I genuinely did think it was a sending off. To be honest with you, Michael. The second one, I just think Devlin was too hyped up. He potentially could have got away with it, but I think when he's playing on the edge like that, he's always going to run the risk of the officials brandishing a yellow card, because he already got booked in the second half.
Yeah, but not even that, Reagan. I was going to say, okay, Devon was on the rest for the whole game, but surely he knew that Hearts were down to 10 men, as hard as it is in the cup semi-final. But to go down to 9 men, he's only got himself to blame there.
Yeah, he has, and I think he needs to learn to be able to control that inner sanctum, to go, right, well, I need to control my emotions and control what I'm doing, and being able to take in the occasion. I don't know if the occasion just the whole emotion and the occasion got the better of him, but hopefully from now on he can learn to control that. He can be able to say, right, next time, hopefully I can do better and I can control myself in these sort of places.
Especially when the bottom 6 fixtures, I can't remember offhand who Hearts has got next week, but obviously you would say that, they're in that relegation battle now as well. And I suppose that they need to keep their discipline even more going into the last 5 games.
Yeah, and it's not just about Aberdeen keeping their discipline as well. All the players now will be fighting for a place. Now they'll be fighting to go, right, well, we can fight for this Scottish trophy at the end of the season. They'll all be to try and get in the team and show the manager, look, I deserve to start in your team. But it was great for Aberdeen to get through because it would have been so hard for them because they went 6-0 to Celtic. But so they've put that at the back of their mind now and they've managed to go over the Hampden hoodoo from the last time. And they'll be hoping that, well, I think secretly every Aberdeen fan will be hoping that St Johnstone go through because if Celtic play well, then I think Celtic win the game. But Aberdeen's got a great chance, and I wouldn't be surprised if Aberdeen walk away with a 8th Scottish trophy on the steps of Hampden. But yeah, I think if Celtic play well, then Celtic will win the game. But I definitely wouldn't write off Aberdeen.
I think as well, on the show before the game, I was saying to you about it's a bit unfair that Aberdeen fans has been outnumbered today because it's the kickoff as well. But if you if you fast forward your 180 minutes, they don't care if it was a 12:30 kickoff, 11:30 kickoff, as long as they're in the final.
Yeah, the most important thing for Aberdeen is that they're in that final and they've got an opportunity to make history to win the Scottish Trophy for a record number 8 time for Aberdeen. That's all they'll be thinking about, and I'm sure Jeremy and his coaching team will be working on the best plan for both Celtic and St Johnstone. I'm sure Jimmy will be there tomorrow and watching the opposition and seeing what he can pick up.
And of course that it might be a dress rehearsal for the cup final. We'll touch upon the Celtic game and before the end against St Johnstone, but of course Celtic plays Aberdeen in a few weeks. I think it's the last midweek game before the end of the
Yep.
season up in
Yeah,
Aberdeen as well. I wanted your thoughts about Neil Clitsy. I know you say get on about because that they're basically out. He, you know, his future might be intact, but I mean, if I was a Hearts fan, I would be annoyed of the Hearts kind of like performance today as well. But also, Reagan, when you've got 5 games left, surely you can't sack a manager or whatever then because the full concentration must be staying in the Premiership.
I think Hearts will survive no problem, but I think the bigger picture for them is are they able to see a general plan with Carissly as a manager? And I think he's done okay, Michael, but I just think that the Hearts fans didn't really buy into him at the very start. And I think it's like past managers before. See, when you get an appointment and people don't really buy into it, sometimes it's kind of writ off for the very start, you know. And I think it's no slight on Neil Chrisley. Of course, he's tried his best and has got the most of these players, but that's now another big match that he's played in and Hearts not been able to win. I mean, they've still not won an Edinburgh Derby over their biggest rivals when he's been manager, and that's going to be something that the Hearts fans are looking at as well. He's still not beat Rangers. He's not beat Celtic. So these are all big questions that Aberdeen are really looking at. And I think in terms of Hearts, I think Hearts are just trying to go right. Well, that semi final kind of was a kind of shot for him to kind of bring back some pride and bring back some authority with the supporters. But I just feel like now, I just think like the support for him will dwindle away. I, I just don't see him being a Hearts long term. I might be totally wrong. He might win all his bottom 6 matches and that the Hearts fans might enjoy what they're seeing. But I just think there's a real disconnect with the board of directors to Hearts as well, because I know that is it Andrew McKinley, the CEO.
Yeah.
I know that he was looking at potentially a kind of foreign manager, something different. And I know that the Hearts fans were kind of looking forward to that. The ones that we spoke to, they were looking forward to something different. But in terms of Chrisley, the way I would describe it was a kind of underwhelming appointment, Michael. So I don't think that's kind of worked out well for Hearts. But I think overall they can really say it's been a disappointing season for them.
I think as well, Reagan, and I hate to go back to this, but I mean, with his appointment, obviously Graham was a bit unsure, but obviously he got to back him as a Hearts fan. But I think that the point that the football has not been played in paper, but also even though that the fans are getting given Chris's stick, and we are talking about him on the show, but the players should have a good look at themselves as well, because there's Shackman again, scoring a goal today. He's been missing. Devlin lost his head, as I say, went down to 9 men today. Say what you want about Craig Gordon. He's a brilliant. He's still a brilliant goalkeeper. Kabangu. I forgot he was on the park today, and that's not been me a bit unfair. McCart had a shot in the second half. So yeah, the players should really have a good look at themselves as well, Regan.
Yeah, I think that is true. I think overall this season has been a disappointing season, but to lay off the players a little bit, I think that in terms of what they put into the game, because they were down to 10 men, because what they put into the game overall, I think that I don't think that they can be too disappointed, because if you said to a Hearts fan you go down to 10 men after 10 minutes, and you still end up doing okay in the game, I think they can accept the heart and desire, because that was shown today. It was just the fact that they weren't able to get over the line. But I just feel like Hearts are not really in a good place right now, because I think the fa- the fans were expecting something better from the board, but they didn't really get what they wanted. But I think overall, in terms of what Hearts are trying to do, I think they'll be disappointed, especially after the start of the season. But I think it shows you as well how important that the recruitment it has to be, because if you look at Aberdeen, for example, Aberdeen brought in Janssen, they brought in
Gay.
Papa Gay, they brought in loads of good players, Nielsen,
Habadas.
yeah, pa, pa, Palaversa and that as well. So they brought in a lot of good players that you sort of that you can buy into, and I like Neskinen as well. I think he's a good player. I didn't realise that Aberdeen played him in a qualifying game. That's where they spotted him, so that's interesting. But I think overall Aberdeen's recruitment has been very good. I think Hearts' recruitment on paper looked good with Dan Spittle, but again, those two never played today as well, Michael.
I thought Danda would be a brilliant signing for Hearts. He was going to go for fun for Ross County as well. But I mean, when you mentioned about the Aberdeen players there that they've Jimmy Sheldon has brought in, we've never mentioned Kevin Nisbet as well.
Yeah, I mean Nisbet's been great for them, and you could see when it was getting closer to that final whistle how desperate he was to win that game. And yeah, I mean he's done very well. They come up from Millwall, Nisbet. I mean he's always been a striker that I've enjoyed watching. He always seems to score the odd really great goal. I don't think he's of the level of joining a club like Celtic or Rangers because he's not a player that scores a lot, but he's a very good player, and I think he could be a danger man for potentially St Johnstone or Celtic in the final.
Yeah, no, I would maybe put him in the same category. Well, maybe not after today's performance, Shankling, because, and the reason I'm saying that, Reagan, is the two of them. Nisbet had one of his quiet games, but you know that he only needs one Smith at goal.
Yeah, he does, and I think he's a very good player. He's, I don't think he scores a barrel load, but I think if he gets a chance in front of goal, then you wouldn't put it past him to score. But Michael, I just want to bring you up to date with the scores in the championship. It's now the first 45 minutes are finished. It's Morton 1, Airdrie 0, Dunfermline 0, Partick Thistle 0, Falkirk 1, Raith Rovers 0, and it's Queen's Park 0, Hamilton 0.
There you go. That's a half-time scores. A very difficult week for Hamilton, as we spoke about on the show last night. But I mean, Aberdeen would fancy their chances now, Reagan. You know, getting into a final and finishing high up in that table. So it could maybe be a decent first season for Jim Terling in the Premiership.
Yeah, I mean he's proven everybody that he's a very capable manager. Of course, Aberdeen have fell by the wayside a little bit, but I mean to get Aberdeen for third place and make sure that they're in a final, I think that's credit to him. It's credit to the players, and also you think about you think about him as well because he's going to have his doubters when he comes in. He's going to have people. He's going to have people that doubt him and thinking, right, well, am I any good? They're going to be questioning his management, his tactics, his overall managerial record. But I think he's coming to Aberdeen. He's been a breath of fresh air. He's been absolutely brilliant. So I think in terms of what he's actually done, I wouldn't say he's overachieved, but he's done what he was brought in to do. And I think, okay, people can argue, well, he probably could have done more in the second part of the season because Aberdeen fell away after that drawing 3-3 against David Grayslade, and that I ironically picked them up in a bit of form. But I think overall, you've got to say, for a very first season in Scottish football, fair play to to, to, to the Aberdeen manager because he's been able to navigate things very well. And I would even say as far now as he would come in to my thinking for a potential manager of the year.
Yep. No, exactly. And also on that note, Reagan, that we're talking about Jimmy Tillin doing a good job with the team. You must give credit to Dave Cormack because I'll be the first one to put my hands up in the air and say, well, Dave Cormack is one more appointment away from the fans wanting him gone as well. But because obviously
Great point you made there.
Yeah, because obviously the appointment of Stephen Glass, and we all know who came up the road after that. Aberdeen fans might want to not remember his name as well. Maybe we'll just skim over that appointment. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the appointments he's made some bad appointments, but you've got to say he's put his money where his mouth is. He's tried his best. He's made very good appointments. He's tried his best for his club. Okay, I know that he's done it from afar sometimes over in America, but you, I think he's shown he's got his dying love for Aberdeen. He's tried to put as much money in as possible. He's really backed the club in anything they've tried to do. I think a masterstroke this season was bringing in Alan Burrows from Motherwell because he was a well-renowned Scottish football with a around Scottish football circles. He was someone that everybody respected. So I think overall it's been a very good season for Aberdeen, and I think a little bit of the pressure's come off Dave Coman now because it's finally got a manager that could potentially be one game away from Aberdeen winning a trophy.
Yeah, and also as well, it's a big 5 games for Aberdeen, not only to get high up in the table, but also every player now pulls on the Aberdeen jersey, whether it's next week or the weeks after that, is fighting for a cup final spot.
Yeah, everybody's fighting now, and everybody wants to be involved in that team. And I think in terms of what Aberdeen really doing, you can't argue with how they've been this season. They'll be hoping that Sokler gets back in time for it as well, and they'll be. I think Aberdeen's got a very good squad. You look at the squad today, and people like Devlin and that are not even getting on the pitch. So that at the start of the season, Devlin was our first pick in the team sheet. So I
Jamie
think,
McGrath.
yeah, it was great to see him back as well, and it'll be interesting to see whether who he who he wants to win next week because he's got his employers uh, against his new club.
Yeah, no, I know. So we could maybe call that the Jamie McGrath derby next week as well, because naturally like to give people nickname derbies and all that. Keep your comments coming in. If you're just tuning in, we final score was Hearts 1, Aberdeen 1. It went to extra time. We were moments away from penalty kicks, but then Indaba stood up to the mark, and he must have had a lot. That says a lot of confidence by putting him on the park, by Jimmy Killeen making the subs rigging, and it finished Cats 1, Aberdeen 2.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about the Aberdeen manager in particular, Michael, is it's something that I hold against Neil Lennon is that Neil Lennon's a very reactionary manager. But what I can see with Jimmy is very structural with who he brings on and what he actually tells them to do. It's not a case of right, we're struggling right now. Let's just bring on subs as a reaction to win the game. It's actually well thought out. Who's going to come on? What's his plan in the game? It's all structural, structural.
Do you think that when the Aberdeen fans sober up and drink responsibly and all that, but do you
Yeah,
feel
please
though
do.
that do you think that the only criticism they would have of the team, well, maybe not criticism, concern of the team is Hearts were down to 10 men for the majority of that game, but in the same breath, would you not have to give Hearts a bit of credit as well for that?
I think the thing for Aberdeen was that they need to be more clinical and they need to open up teams more often because I think if if the Aberdeen Hearts game that we just watched there, if that went to penalties, then you would probably fancy Hearts because they went through the adversity of having two players sent off, and then it also plays into Aberdeen's minds because they go, "Oh no." It plays into the Aberdeen players' minds subconsciously because they go, right, well, if it goes to penalties, then Hearts are the favourites because during this match we went for two players advantage and we still couldn't beat them. So I think in terms of what Aberdeen are trying to do, it's a great win psychologically because, like you said, everybody nowadays is fighting for places in the team the next 5 games.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Brian makes a comment in the chat on YouTube. He says Hearts were 11 men behind the ball from half time, but then then it says sorry 9 men. Yeah, I think that's the point that we were making, Brian, as well. I don't think Hearts were behind the ball. I think Hearts were too slow in the build-up play as well, but I mean, I think, as I said to you, that
I think the game plan from Hearts changed when the sending off happened. I think if there was no sending off, I think Hearts would have been a bit more adventurous. But because Hearts were down to 10 men, Michael, that kind of made it more difficult for Hearts. I don't know if Brian agrees, but I think in general, because I know people say sometimes it's easier if we go down to 10 men, but sometimes it's harder because you're trying to find that space and because it becomes more of a harder game. And I think um, in terms of what Hearts did, I thought they defended pretty well, probably the best they could. Probably the only thing for them was that if they'd have held on 2 or 3 minutes more.
I think the best example of that raging was Rangers going down to 10-minute Ibrox last week in the European game, because I felt as though Rangers played better with 10 men than 11. I know that's stupid to say, because obviously it's a team game as well, and you don't see people getting sent off, but I guess it was though Rangers' approach to the game was better with 9 men. I don't know if it was because they were at home or whatever, but I guess it was they were better, and I suppose
I
like
know,
looking at yeah.
I know what you mean because the tactical plan sort of changes, and then from a Rangers point of view, they're kind of defensively, and then they're trying to get a free kick in a corner or a penalty or whatever. But so I totally get what your point is there, Michael.
But obviously the game finished. Aberdeen is going into the Scottish Cup final, and but I think if you're a Hearts fan, I think that they played better with 10 men, but I'm saying better, but they never actually work. The Aberdeen goalkeeper very much when they went down to 10 men. So I think that would be the most disappointing thing.
Yeah, I don't think either shot was what truly, Michael. I think that's a good point you make. I don't think it was a game of too many chances. If I'm being honest with you, I just felt like Hearts and Aberdeen didn't really have that much quality in them. They were hoping they can step up for the final. Aberdeen, if they want to break the stranglehold of Scottish football from Celtic or St Johnstone, because Celtic or St Johnstone over the past few years have swept aside most of the trophies. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing who Aberdeen now play.
I think as well, Regan. Am I right in saying that Liam and Common Clay were saying that there was only one shot on goal the whole game, and that was obviously there was about two other shots in the game, but one shot on goal the whole game in the semi final. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, I think Aberdeen had 2 shots in target, maybe. There wasn't too much. It was a kind of slow build up.
Well, two
Um,
goals as well, so
yeah, it was sort of slow build up from Aberdeen. But I think the most important thing, as I've said, the most important thing for Aberdeen is they're in the final. Like I've said before on these shows I've been on for years, I've said that it's no important how you play in the semi final. It's all about being able to take yourself to that final. It's not about how do you play.
There you go. Brian stuck his neck on the line. Brian, thanks for watching on YouTube. He said Celtic will win it. Celtic will win the final unless the Gons can repeat the 1999. If any of you remember the final, 9-8 on penalties. Well, Brian, if you're not going to the game tomorrow, you can turn us on because will be on from 2 o'clock and then after the game at 5 o'clock. It also makes in a comment here, Regan, want to hear your thoughts on this about Hearts, where the defences will play to try and can the ref to the level. What do you make of that?
I think they were. I think in terms of Hearts, I think they were they were going down after Aber- after they got a man sent off. But yeah, I would tend to agree with Brian there, but I don't think John Beaton was sort of buying into it. I think he handled the occasion well. He didn't really book too many people, which was great to see because, as I said earlier, the last thing you want to see in a big game like this is to make both teams go down to 10 men and make it not a great game to watch because we want Scottish football to be on the map. But I think John Beaton made the correct call by sending the Hearts player off.
You mentioned it on the game about the Hampden pitch and all that, but I mean, that was the best I've saw Hampden for a while, Regan, for a big semi-final.
Yeah, I think it was. And I think it's been looking good. I just hope it recovers well tonight. I hope the groundsmen and women are on the pitch just now and making it good for St Johnstone or Celtic tomorrow. So yeah, it's going to be great. And it's great to see Aberdeen through. I think the last time they won it was is it 1990, Michael?
Yep, yep. Was it Eb Gogal? No. Somebody might be correct me in the chat. And by the way, I've at least to get something right during the game. Last night on the show, I was trying to remember about Simbo Valacari winning the Scottish Cup, and it was for Murrow in the fourth league game against Gundy United. And I mentioned that in the show last night. The guys weren't sure, but formed him of knowledge as well. So there you go. So Aberdeen awaits the winner of the second semi-final tomorrow between St Johnstone and Celtic. It will be on at 2:00. Regan and myself will be at the game. I will be covering the game. What do you make of this game, Regan? Because obviously we spoke about it in the show last night, but it's going to be very interesting because it was only 2 weeks ago Celtic went up there in party mood and St Mirren spoiled St Johnstone. I've got my Saints mixed up again, St Johnstone spoiled the party.
Yeah, they did. St Johnstone did that day. They played well. It was a header in the first half, and then they managed to seal the win. I think that is a great boost for St Johnstone. They know they can beat Celtic now, and they know they can try their best to do it. Because I think sometimes psychologically, if you're not being able to win it against someone for a long time, it can become very hard. It can become very annoying to play against a team. So I think it's a great thing for these players and the manager to go right. Everybody has shown that we've been able to win the match, and Brian says there that he wants St Johnstone to win. I'm not surprised there.
I'll be interested to get your thoughts about this, Regan, from a Celtic point of view. And I made this point during the week to a few people. But because Celtic aren't putting a 90-minute performance together, I'm thinking about the Kilmarnock game last week and then the Hearts game before that, and obviously the Rangers game. Well, that speaks for itself. But do you think it's because Celtic aren't playing a midweek game? It's putting them off a wee bit in terms of like they're used to playing that Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. I mean, you would think Celtic would be preferred to get a rest during the week and just play one game a week. But do you feel as though that's kind of like not giving them a perfect, well, not a perfect, but a good 90 or 94-minute performance because they're only playing once a week?
I think the thing for Celtic at the moment is because they've already won the league title and they've already won the League Cup and they're out of the Champions League. I think that's I think it's hard for the players to motivate themselves. Of course, you should be motivated because people are paying good money to come and watch you. But I think um, anybody that's played football will tell you if you're 15 points ahead and you're at the end of the season, it's difficult to motivate yourself to want to push that a little bit further as well. And you need to think about it as well, like see Celtic's best players at the moment, they'll not want to get injured because there's a big semi final talking about tomorrow. So they'll not want to get injured in terms of making it through to the final and maybe making sure that they're going to be there because as I said the other day, Celtic are potentially going for a sixth treble in 10 years. And that'd be something incredible for the club to achieve.
From a St. Johnson point of view, Reagan, I was speaking about this on the show last night, and obviously the St. Johnson board weren't stupid because they felt, well, yeah, let's charge Celtic fans silly money because they'll buy tickets because they've only one game away from winning the league. But would that not fire St. Johnson players' bellies up a wee bit because everybody said, well, everybody's got Celtic as a homer to win the game against St Johnson, to win the game next week against Rangers, what didn't happen. But did get work in the favour a wee bit of the St Johnson players, do you think?
Yeah, because it fired them up to say, look, we're not happy that you've taken the majority of stands, but then it's also up to the owners to go, right, well, we need to get as much money as possible to make sure that we can stay afloat financially. I mean, of course, people like Alistair want to enjoy the game, but they also want their team to do very well. And I think in terms of St Johnson in general, I think this performance 2 weeks ago it grows in the players that they've got the self belief to go out there and prove to everybody that they're able to do very well. I think in terms of St Johnson, there's no more they can do. But I think if they'd have went out last week and they'd have got beat 4 or 5-0, then psychologically they could have been going, oh no, here we go again. But now they're going, right, we proved last week that we can beat Celtic, so we can do it again.
I know that you've been saying, and we've been talking about the manager of the year on the show the last few weeks, Reagan, right? And you've come accounted David Gray to win the manager of the year. Obviously, Jeremy Tilling's up there as well. I would maybe put Simo Valakari in there as well, not only because that they're in the semi-final against Celtic tomorrow and they beat Celtic last week, but it was the way that he actually turned the team around because before he came in December or whenever it was, I can't remember offhand, everybody was writing St Johnson off. But if you think back to the cup game against Motherwell up at McDermott Park, where I think they won that 1-2-1 or 1-0, I can't remember. That game actually changed the season a wee bit.
Yeah, I mean they're playing very well at the moment, and like Alistair was saying last night, I think if they'd have brought in a very good shotstopper like Fisher from the start of the season, I think they would have no problems. But it just shows you need to recruit very well, and I think St Johnson now, if they can somehow survive, then I think it can go down as a great season for them. And I think everybody involved with St Johnson will be going along to Hampden tomorrow, more in hope than expectation. But now they know that they can do very well against Celtic because they've proved it.
And I think that back to your point up early on, Reagan, where they said full credit must go to Dave Cormack for giving Jimmy Carlin the job. Full credit must go to St Johnson as well, giving Valakari the job, because not many managers come from like Finland or that part of the world to Scottish football.
I think that's a great point you make. I think for St Johnson to put a project in front of Valakari and say, look, this is why you should join us. I think I think in terms of who Valakari, I think he should try and work, because he's proved now that it's been a great appointment by St Johnson. It's been brilliant. So I think it's shown that for Scottish football clubs to go outside the box and not just go for your typical Tommy Wright or Derek McInnes, Alan Archibald type of manager, then
I think, sorry, Regan, I think what you're trying to say is that the safe approach.
yeah, because like people go, I've heard people like Michael Stewart saying, on the like TNT and stuff like that, he's saying, well, it's a kind of safe pair of hands, but sometimes, like, of course, it's great to have people like Neil in and people like that, but sometimes it's great to have a fresh approach, new ideas and that. So I think overall, I think in terms of what St Johnstone have done so far, I don't think the owner or the fans can really grumble with what Valakari is doing, because he's doing a very good job, and he'll be doing a job even more if he can beat Celtic tomorrow.
And I think as well, a lot of people knock Scottish football down, but I mean, I think like, or like me and you are sitting on the show and we do a show in a Friday night in European football when we follow the clubs in Scotland and Europe and the Scotland national team. But when you think about it, Regan, we have really got a good kind of like product on the park. But the only bit that we're failing is when the TV deal, different sponsorships are coming in as well.
Aye, I mean, if you look at what we're actually doing, is we've got a good product now to try and say to these broadcasters, look, are you able to put in more money? Because I think Scottish football is a good product to be involved in. I know that certain broadcasters like Premier Sports, they try and they try their best to talk about Celtic and Rangers all the time, but as I said last night, Scottish football's got a lot more stories about it than Celtic and Rangers.
Yep. So before we go, Regan, give us a kind of update on the championship games.
Yep. I'll do that for you just now. The scores right now after 65 minutes is Partick Thistle 0, Dunfermline 0, Falkirk 1, Raith Rovers 0, Queen's Park 0, Hamilton 0, Airdrie 0, Morton 1. So as it stands, Falkirk are going one step closer to the title.
There you go. And don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow with the big build up to the St Johnstone Celtic game. We'll be on from 2:00, and then we'll be hopefully on after the 90 minutes. If it goes to then we'll be on later. But if it goes 90 minutes, we'll be on from 5:00 after the game. So that's tomorrow at 2:00, and then after the game at 5:00. Well, it only leaves me to say, Regan, can you give us a score prediction for tomorrow?
I'm sorry to disappoint St Johnstone fans here, but I think Celtic will just have far too much. I'll say St Johnstone 0, Celtic 4.
Oh, there you go. So there you go. Join the guys tomorrow And also, I forgot to mention as well that we've got a show on Tuesday night with John Attenborough looking at disabled facilities for football fans with a disability. So join us at 7:30 for that one, if you can. Meanwhile, we have got our first finalist in the final. Of course, after 90 minutes today, it was one each, and after extra time, Aberdeen will be going back to Hampden on the 24th of May because it finished in that one. Hearts 1, Aberdeen 2.
You're watching all the build-up and reaction. Hearts, Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup semi-final.